The bear has been poked. It's time to wake up from our slumber
and stand together, united as one. One family, one body, one church.
We will not walk past the vulnerable.
Say nothing, do nothing, and turn a blind eye.
We are citizens of a great nation.
We are good Samaritans to our neighbors. You are not alone.
We are the largest unified voice in Canada. So we stand united. This is our rally cry. We are Christ to our nation. This is our battle cry. He shall have dominion from sea to sea and from the river unto the ends of the earth. Righteousness will reign. Justice will prevail. We are united.
Yes, and we are definitely united here on the National Leadership Briefing. Thank you for taking the time to join us this first day of January 2021. It's an exciting road ahead for us all. We've started to develop this habit of coming together, exercising our combined influence, looking for those opportunities where we can utilize our combined voice and speak to the issues that are important to us. Thank you so much for all of the work that you did back in 2020, but forget all that, because all of our opportunities are on the road ahead of us. What are we going to be doing today? Let's get right into it. We've got a lot to cover, as always. First of all, we've got an answer period segment. As you know, here on the National Leadership Briefing, we do get questions, and we see questions that pop up that seem to be more often and not. We want to make sure that when we see a question pop up a lot, we get that answer out to you. Got a great question for the answer period segment today. We are then going to have an issue review segment. We're going to be talking about Bill C6, the conversion therapy bill. I've got a special guest to introduce you to today who has some firsthand knowledge of where that bill is at and what it is that we should be focusing on as it moves through the House of Commons and into the Senate. We've also got a citizen spotlight segment that I'm going to be sharing today that's going to be exciting, because for all of you CAG ministry people, that's your Citizen Action Group ministry people out there, who all of those people that have those ministries within your churches. Well, I found one person who's just been doing what we teach on the National Leadership Briefing and is just making great gains out there and having great influence in her own community. So I'm going to introduce you to Sandra in the Citizen Spotlight segment today. And then we are going to be going straight to another segment where I'm going to introduce you to the person who's going to be helping us navigate fully exploiting this golden opportunity we have to influence the policy of a major political party here in Canada. There's going to be a policy convention coming up, and I've got a person going to join us today who is going to help us to navigate that and teach us and tell us what we need to do to have great influence as delegates at the convention. So don't forget that piece, because it's going to surprise you how from where you are in your own living room, you're going to be able to exercise great influence, add your voice to ours, and make great change possible. And then finally, as I promised last month on the National Leadership Briefing, I want to make sure that the Citizen Action Group ministries within churches know who it is that is out there, who is available and ready and standing with them, ready to help on the road ahead, so that if you've got questions about legal issues, if you've got questions about pro-life issues, if you've got questions about any kind of question you might have about specific issues like human trafficking, we know who the experts are out there, and we want to make sure that you know them as well, so that you can call upon them and use their resources. So we're going to finish up here at my desk, and we're going to be talking about some of the resources that are out there. So let's get started here on the National Leadership Briefing. First day of January, first day of 2021. We're going to start it off right with an answer period segment. Here we go. Well, we get a lot of questions, as I say, on the National Leadership Briefing, but one that comes up quite a bit is people ask me why I say specific things over and over again. And specifically, I have been asked a lot about why I say things like, we look through all of the issues through the lens of the four pillars. So what is the lens of the four pillars? That is the question that we're going to be talking about on today's answer period segment. Well, the lens of the four pillars, the things that we look through when we're looking at anything here on the National Leadership Briefing, of course, we need to understand what the four pillars are first. The first pillar is that we believe here on the National Leadership Briefing, all of us together believe that parents have the right to raise their children the way they want. We believe that that's the job of parents, not government. So parents do have that right. The second thing that we believe here on the National Leadership Briefing is that those we elect to serve us in civil government must respect and defend our right of belief and freedom of religion. So it's not good enough just for them to respect our right of belief and freedom of religion. We expect them to defend it when necessary under the barrage of attacks. The third pillar that we actually rally around here on the National Leadership Briefing is that the policies and laws that are passed and enacted by civil governments must provide for the safety and security of the citizens, especially the vulnerable that live among us in our communities. So if a law is passed, it is the first box that must be checked to make sure that it is safe for vulnerable people. And then finally, the fourth pillar is that we believe that it's inappropriate for civil government to heap debt upon the backs of our children and future generations. So again, getting back to the question is, why do I always say that we look through all issues through the lens of these four pillars? Well, there's three reasons. The first reason is that oftentimes, especially when we're talking to candidates or about legislative proposals and things like that, everybody's got their own narrative as to what it is their perspective is on various issues. We're going to be talking about one of those issues today called Bill C-6, the conversion therapy bill. So there's a lot of different ways to look at this bill from different worldviews. Well, our worldview is very, very specific to our community. And when I say we're going to look at that bill, for example, through the lens of the four pillars, then we're to ourselves looking at it and asking ourselves all the same question. For example, does it interfere with a parent's right to raise their children the way they want? So if that bill is being looked at through the lens of the four pillars, that's the question we want to have answered. I don't care what your narrative is as a politician. We want to know if it's going to interfere with a parent's right to raise their kids the way they want. The second thing is, does this bill accurately or appropriately respect my right of belief and freedom of religion? So these are the lenses that we evaluate legislative proposals through. You might want to look at a budget that is passed by a government and say, is this budget expenditure, this budget that's proposed by government, is this going to heap debt upon the backs of our children and future generations? Because I don't care what it is you're buying with this money. I just want to know if you're piling debt on the backs of my kids. And so it helps us stay focused on what our perspective is when we look through the lens of the four pillars. Now, the second reason is that we look at through lens is that we want to make sure that we're consistent in our application of all of these lenses. So in other words, when I'm out there looking at legislation and looking at it through the lens of the four pillars, and then I look at a candidate, and then I look at a societal proposal or some sort of community initiative, or maybe I'm just talking to my friends and trying to gather support around my ideas, I am actually speaking to that issue from the perspective of parental authority, right of belief, freedom of religion, fiscal responsibility, and my posture and positioning on the issues is consistent across all of the issues. And then finally, the third reason why it is that we look through the lens of the four pillars at all of the things we consider here on the briefing is because when we all do that together across the nation, we speak with one voice from one perspective at the same time. It helps us to unite uniformly in our positions around things like legislative proposals, whether or not we support specific candidates or not, et cetera, et cetera. So these are the reasons why we cut down the noise by looking through the lens. We kind of screen out all the other narratives. We also make sure that we're applying it consistently across all of the things we look at, and it helps us to speak in a unified way to all the issues that we're facing today in our communities, in our government, in our culture, and in our society. These are the things that we believe in. First, that parents have the right to raise their children the way they want. Second, that those we elect to serve us in civil government must respect and defend our right of belief and freedom of religion. Number three, that the laws and policies of civil government must provide for the safety and security of the citizens, especially the vulnerable among us. And number 4, that it is inappropriate to heap debt upon the backs of our children and future generations. They came from you. They're your pillars. They're the things that you believe. Well, this is an exciting day for us here on the National Leadership Briefing because, as you know, from time to time, we provide special briefings and special reports on issues that are critically important to Canadians and the people that we serve who want to see the 4 pillars advanced into society, culture, politics, and government. Well, today we have a special guest, JoJo Ruba from Free to Care, who is willing to provide us with critical information that we need to fully understand the bill before Parliament right now. That's Bill C6. The conversion therapy bill is what it's being referred to as. And JoJo has not only a lengthy experience on the ground dealing with this provincially, but has recently come back from Ottawa and has had an opportunity to speak to this issue and to speak to parliamentarians about this issue. So JoJo, I'm not going to waste any more time. I would just welcome you. Thank you so much for your time. And thank you for your willingness to provide us with a briefing here today.
Thank you so much, Doug, and thanks everyone for joining us. It really is an important matter that's in front of us right now when we're talking about what Bill C6 is. And let me just start off by saying when I moved to Ottawa, I actually have a Carleton degree. So those of you from the Ottawa area will know what that's like. Last chance you, Carleton High is the jokes you make. But I went there for journalism, and that apparently has a better reputation than some of the other programs. And in journalism school, one of the things we were taught was always to ask good questions, always to be able to investigate what we believe and investigate what other people believe. And as a Christian, I went there as a pastor's kid, really wanting to be a positive influence in the Christian community, as well as the secular community, to serve well the Canadian public and give ideas and challenge ideas. Being in university, though, that's one of the times I began to realize that I was struggling with same-sex attractions and dealing with what do I do as a Christian who believes that the view that marriage is the place for sexual encounters between a husband and wife only, and that no other sexual practice is something that honors God, and having to deal with unwanted attractions to other men that I knew I didn't want to act on. And so in Ottawa, I began to visit and see, with the help of my Christian friends, counselors that helped me process this experience and really help me understand one of the key principles I still hold to now, which is at the end of the day, sexual attractions may be something that we have, but they do not have to define you. It's our choice to make those our definitions. And I've chosen not to make my sexual attractions my defining feature. It's something that I have, something I struggle with, but it isn't something that makes me me. And my relationship with God, my relationship with Christ is so much more important. And I've lived that life chaste and celibate, and it has been easy, but I've always been grateful for the fact that I can go to a counselor and talk to my pastor about these issues and know that I have the freedom to live my life the way I do and to get the support that I do. That's why when Bill C6 was being discussed and debated, and there's been a long history behind that before in the Senate and other places, and here in Alberta, where we've had these bylaws passed, written by the very same people who are trying to pass Bill C6, that are trying to ban that experience, trying to say that people like myself simply do not exist, because 100%, and they said this at the Justice Committee recently when I was there, 100% of the people who've gone through what they consider conversion therapy have actually been tortured or been coerced into it. And my very existence is now being put into question by this kind of bill. And I want to speak about 3 points why we all as Canadians, whatever our religious faith or sexual identity or gender identity or whatever way we identify, in fact, have to be very concerned about Bill C6. And I think we need to understand this key point. You can support a conversion therapy ban, but you shouldn't support this conversion therapy ban. This conversion therapy ban is so broadly defined, it not only affects people like me, it will broadly affect 3 fundamental rights that we as Canadians should all agree with. The first one is this bill actually targets LGBT people and criminalizes their speech, unlike any other group of Canadians. What's important with the conversion therapy ban is it uses a definition of conversion therapy that is not used by any medical or professional body in North America anywhere. Conversion therapy is defined by these medical groups as a form of therapy. So it's actual formalized therapy where people are aimed to reduce non-heterosexual or LGBT kinds of attractions, but not behavior. The government specifically used the term reduction of non-heterosexual sexual behavior in its definition of conversion therapy. And why that is so important is because there are many reasons that people, Canadians, would want to reduce their sexual behavior, whether it's gay or straight. For example, this was mentioned in the Justice Committee by several people, including one person who still identifies as LGBT. He said, look, someone may be having a porn addiction or a sex addiction, or maybe having a sexual affair behind their spouse's back. And they may want to reduce that sexual behavior, which they have a right to. And in fact, what's key with these medical bodies is that they tell us, and this is all in their standards of practice, that they are not allowed to decide outcomes for their patients. It's up to the patients to determine outcomes. As one Christian lawyer pointed out in a successful lawsuit in Florida, you can look that up too, by the way, they actually argued this and argued it well and won. They said, look, the therapist's job is to be like a GPS system. The driver plugs in the destination she wants to go to. The GPS gives the directions for that driver. In the same way, the therapist listens to the patient about what outcome she wants, and then the therapist helps that patient get to that outcome. So if therapists and counselors don't decide outcomes for their patients, why does the government think you can decide outcomes for their patients? The second point is this bill makes a huge dent on parental rights. And one of the key points, the key pillars that Doug always talks about is the right of parents. And I think parental rights are actually there to protect children. That's why we honor the right of parents, the people who are most invested in these children, to make decisions for those underage kids. Well, this bill makes no distinction between a 5-year-old and a 15-year-old or a 16-year-old. It treats them exactly the same. Any kind of desire they want to change their gender or sexuality or gender identity, to get counseling for it, will now only be up to them. The only thing adults, including parents, will be allowed to do is affirm whatever decision they made. Now, let me give you an example of how this goes. So the government added the term gender expression on the last day of committee, and that, unfortunately, is a term that has no definition in law. We don't know what that means. So one of the Bloc Québécois MPs, usually a party that is not friendly to us, but he's the one who raised this scenario, and it was very interesting, the response. He asked this of the lawyer for the Heritage Department who was speaking at the Justice Committee. And he said this: what if a 5-year-old child, as a boy, wants to dress up in a high heels and a dress and go to school? He gets teased by his classmates. He comes back and now wants to get counseling for the fact that he wants to wear a dress. His parents bring him to counseling. The counselor helps reduce this gender expression that this little boy no longer wants. Would that be a criminal act? So the MP, the Bloc Québécois MP, asked the lawyer this. The lawyer for the government did not answer the question, because we know it is now going to be a criminal act. That parent is now aiding and abetting a crime by bringing their consenting 5-year-old son, who doesn't want to wear dresses anymore, to a counselor who then reduces that gender expression. Because this is the case. In Canadian law, 16-year-olds can get married with their parents' permission. They have to get parental authority. A 5-year-old now can gender transition without their parents' knowledge, or even in opposition from one of the parents. We've seen this happen in BC as well. So now the situation is, what about parental rights when it comes to helping your child shape their sexual and gender identity? Now you no longer have that, according to this bill. And that's why this is such a dangerous thing. And I'm not exaggerating. I wish I was. I'm not just trying to throw these scenarios out there. This is the scenario that was brought up in the Justice Committee. Last point, and I think this is so critical for us to understand, that the true motivations of people who pass this law is to target the belief that marriage should be the only place for sex between a husband and wife. And that's the belief that billions of people around the world have, of all kinds of religious beliefs. In fact, almost all the world religions teach this. The traditional view of marriage and sexuality, it is something that frankly is the direct result, or causes the society that we have. We can't have future generations without that kind of teaching, obviously. But in this case, the organizations that have been pushing this have been arguing that we as Christians particularly need to be re-educated to believe like them on sexuality, Travis Salway, who is one of the top researchers on this issue, wrote in the Globe and Mail an opinion piece. We can include that in the attachment if you like, where he actually argues the real purpose of conversion therapy bans is to have everyone agree that LGBT people are happy and don't need to change. So if your theology says, no, we need to all submit to the will of Christ, for example, and follow his example as I have, and choose to be celibate, you are no longer allowed to promote that point of view. That's the real target behind this. And for us especially, and we can begin to understand this, that we are now being told that the only way to love LGBT people is to agree with them. Agreement equals love. If you were to disagree with someone, that is now hate. And that is the formula to end any kind of democratic institution in our country. It's not longer just about religious rights. It's about democratic rights. To be able to say, if you disagree with my sexual practices, you must hate me, is now the standard for what we're going to do if we pass this law. Ironically, the people who are arguing this hate our sexual practices. And so therefore, they're the ones who are actually practicing a disagreement that's actually hateful. And so when we begin to put all of these things together, and there's so much more we could talk about what this bill actually does, it basically lays a foundation for criminalizing our perspective. The first step they'll actually do, and this has already been publicly promised by Chris Wells and others, we have the radio clips about this where he says this, and again, we can share that with you if you'd like. But the next step is to then remove the charitable status of any organization that supports conversion therapy. I mean, gosh, if you're supporting torture, you shouldn't be allowed to have charitable status. That's the argument, right? But that's because they're baiting and switching, and they're not even adding the word torture in the definition of conversion therapy. And then once you remove the charitable status, you delegitimize the perspective in a group of people. Now it's a lot easier to criminalize their teaching. And again, I'm not exaggerating in terms of the outcome of this. This is what's going to happen. That's the strategy they've already laid out. And so for us, I think it's critical to take a stand now, to wake up to what's going on, to talk to your MPs, talk to your senators, and visit us at freetocare.ca, free2care.ca. We're organizing these kinds of events and training sessions for your church, denomination, or school. Even this, here's my last point, Doug, even preparing your secretary, your church administrator, your pastors for calls where people will be pretending to need your help when they're actually trying to entrap you to violate this law. And by the way, violating this law can be 5 years in jail. That's the repercussions of this. So we need to wake up to realize what's truly at stake here is a common good for everybody, including the LGBT community. The government has no right to tell them and to tell us what the outcomes or the decisions we make about our sexuality, our faith, and our conscience, and our children. And if we don't draw the line here, there'll be worse laws down the pipeline. So visit us at freetocare.ca. You'll get more information there.
Well, thank you so much, JoJo. There is so much information there. I'm obviously going to be attaching information alongside and below this briefing when we distribute it. But I know there's going to be a lot of people that are going to want to get in touch with you for more information. Is there an email at Free to Care where they can reach out to you and connect with you for more details?
Absolutely. So email us at admin@freetocare.ca, admin@freetocare.ca. You can contact us there. We are more than happy to send you the resources we've had. Like you said, we've been working on this for over a year in the Alberta context. The bylaws here are even worse, but be assured, I mean, we are praying, we're providing and seeing all kinds of cooperation between groups. Let's work together, because I think, frankly, the more people know about this bill, the more they realize, even members of the LGBT community have realized, this is not the right ban to support. You can support a ban, but you don't have to support this one.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much for all the information today. Thank you for clarifying some of those points, all important points for us. And bless you on the road ahead, friend. You've obviously accomplished so much. We're looking forward to walking the road with you into the future and working on this together.
Glad to be here, Doug. Thank you for the invitation.
God bless. Bye for now. Again, fantastic information from JoJo Ruba from Free to Care. And we are going to make sure that not only is that information going to be in the post-briefing notes today so that you can follow up with JoJo, but also we're going to make sure that we keep you up to date as to exactly the actions you can take to exercise influence as this conversation continues through the House of Commons and into the Senate later this month. Okay, so moving on, we've got a Citizen Spotlight segment I'm very excited about. There's an individual who has just done what we have taught on the National Leadership Briefing. I'm excited to introduce you to her now. Sandra? Okay, well, thank you so much, Sandra. I appreciate you taking the time to join us today. I'm excited to share you and your story with everyone here today on the National Leadership Briefing. Why don't we start out there? Tell us a little about where did you come from? What's a little bit of your background that brought you to this place?
Been a concerned citizen for a number of years, just watching what's been going on, particularly, in the last 5 to 7 years since the Liberals got in. Very, very concerned about where our country is going. Concerned for my kids, concerned for my grandkids, everything from morality of the nation, the debt that we've been piling on, and really feeling that I needed to try and do something for them.
Okay, and then at some point in time, your path crossed with the National Leadership Briefing. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
So I saw you on a show, Faytine Show, and you were talking about the 4 pillars and authorities that we have, legitimate authorities that we have in society, how we can use those. And I've been hearing from other sources for a while that as Christians with family-centered priorities, that we needed to get involved and be a voice, because there's a lot of really loud people out there that don't reflect mainstream society, but they are appearing as if they are mainstream because that's what we hear on the media, and those are the voices we're being heard because they're the loudest voices out there.
Right. So true. I hear them too. And you can hear them from a great distance, which is actually lets us know they're out there and they're coming. That kind of tips us off to their presence. Okay. So you were motivated. You had these concerns. You ran across a National Leadership Briefing. What did you do after that? Where did you take it from there?
Prior to that, we had been encouraged through some other sources to become part of the electoral process in terms of supporting especially local ridings in our area that were swing ridings. So it's possible to, with enough work and workers, you can swing that riding. Right. And so I got involved in the election process that way. I started knocking on doors. Honestly, I didn't like it at first. I am not an extrovert. I am not politically motivated. I'm interested in what's going on, but I don't like the game of politics. Right. So I wasn't sure. I started door knocking, really didn't like it. At some point, I just said to God, you know what, I can't do this. I'm not enjoying this. So if you want me to do this, I'm willing, but you got to change my heart. You got to give me something. You got to help me.
Right. Yes.
Well, he did. So I just, I had said to myself, well, I'm going to go out and do this a few more times and then, going to make a decision here. I started really enjoying it.
Fantastic.
I got a heart for the people that I was meeting. And I think that's really important when we go out and we are putting our feet to our beliefs, that we're not doing it because we're angry with the way things are going. We're doing it because we have a heart for the people, that the vulnerable and those that are going to get caught in the web of poor legislation. And we've got a heart for people that maybe really don't understand totally what the issues are. But there's a lot of people out there that really don't understand the issues on the whole because they don't hear the whole story. I really enjoyed doing that and had a great time.
That shift there is really, that's an important part. You didn't enjoy what you were doing at first. You prayed, you asked the Lord to give you a heart for it. And you believe that it's because of that perspective that perhaps the Lord put in your heart? I'm not putting words in your mouth. I'm just saying, is this the feeling, perhaps the Lord putting that heart for the other and the other person that made it more enjoyable for you? And it's that motivation that kept you out there doing something that originally you had not enjoyed doing. Is that possible?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Fantastic.
He just gave me a different perspective. And I
Mm.
mean, not everybody I met was nice and open to discussion, and that's fine. I
Yeah.
just go on to the next one. But yeah, absolutely.
And then where did you go from there? After you were door knocking. Now what else? What other kinds of things have you done?
That was before the end of last year. And then at some point, I saw you on the Faytine show talking about national leadership briefing. And I was really inspired by the ability to have a positive voice
Mm.
with a purpose in our society. So often, we as Christians come across as negative and just against everything because, well, I don't like euthanasia at all. But your perspective enabled me to put a positive voice to that. The voices we need are ones that say, here, this is what you're missing and how we need to make it better. Anyway, I heard you on Faytine show. I was then sent, because we were having an annual meeting for our EDA, I was sent that invitation in
That's your
January.
local electoral district association board, right? That's the board
Right.
locally. Yeah.
So as part of being that membership, I was invited to the Electoral District Association annual meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And at that annual meeting, they were voting in members who would be on the committee for the following year to
Right.
represent the people in that riding.
That's right. The members of the board. You were actually at an election of the board.
That's right.
Yeah.
In some ways, I sort of am maybe a little cautious when I say these things because I don't want people to think that I'm getting struck by lightning and, you know, something really fantastic is happening, that I'm out of the ordinary. It's just really, I felt at peace, and I just saw the possibility of being a voice and an influence on a board for my electoral district, but also being able to have an impact in the other people around me on that board. Just wanting to be the hands and feet of Jesus. We're supposed to be the hands and feet of Jesus. We need to pray, but we need to do something too.
And so there you were then now on the board of the local electoral district association. And then what happened next and most recently?
So then they started asking for volunteers for committees, and I wasn't really too interested in the raising funds committee, or even the Constitution committee didn't really excite me all that much. But they talked about the policy committee.
So I'm glad you recognized that and saw that you could actually have a hand in forging policy. Now, looking ahead here, Sandra, we've got this policy convention with this one political party that you're engaged with. We've got a policy convention coming up, and they're actually looking for delegates to be voters. They're going to vote on policy. Is it your intention that you're going to put your name forward for that as well?
Absolutely.
Oh,
Yeah.
fantastic. That's great.
I think it's really important. I even see it in our policy committee. We're made up of several people, and some are pro-family values and some aren't. So as the people, if I wasn't on that policy committee, the people who did not have pro-family values would have a bigger voice.
Yeah, and they wouldn't have an opportunity to hear Sandra share your views on those things, on those issues. And that's one of the reasons why you're here today, because when we talked on the phone, the sense I got is that you're the kind of person that is just so willing to let what you're saying be considered among the mix of ideas out there. And that's something we always say on the National Leadership Briefing is we're not here to dominate or take over, but we're certainly here to participate in the process and very much appreciate the opportunity to share our ideas with others. And you know, the one thing that I'm also certain of is that you know that our ideas produce positive health outcomes in the lives of Canadians. So we've got a good place there, right? At the table.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we've got a lot to say. Well, I'm excited. I can't wait to see how this all ends up for you, Sandra, because you seem to be someone who the door opens in front of you just a crack and you peek through it and then you push it open and walk through it. That's kind of what I'm seeing, is this pattern forming in your life.
Yeah, seems to be. Yeah, I'm not a procrastinator. If anything, I probably, push doors open that aren't open. But you know what?
Hey.
If you don't try, if you don't go out there and find out at least that you don't like it, then you're not gonna ever get anywhere. You have to kind of be in motion for, it's like a rudder on a ship.
Right.
If the ship isn't moving, the rudder doesn't really direct it anywhere. But once it's got some forward motion, then the rudder will direct it. We need to be in forward motion, and God will direct us as we go.
That is wisdom. That is good. That is good. Very good. Well, thanks, Sandra. I am so happy to have met you. I'm looking forward to working with you on the road ahead and all of the great things you're doing. I thank you so much for letting me share that with the other folks on the National Leadership Briefing today.
Thank you so much, Doug. I really appreciate how you've inspired me to go out there with a positive voice. And like you say, be part of it. It's not about me winning. It's about me being a voice. And the more of us that are out there, the more voices that are out there. And we really need that. We really need to have these positive voices out there that are truly representing the majority of Canadians instead of the ones who are really loud out there trying to overrun the average Canadian's values and beliefs.
That's right. Well, I thank you so much for everything you're doing. Look forward to seeing you again.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks.
God bless.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, before we move on, I just want to dwell on this moment for a bit here, just to make sure that we acknowledge what just happened here. So we just met a citizen, someone who started from a place of just perhaps a little bit of frustration and a little bit of concern, and just found out that there is a way to actually have an impact on what's happening around you, a positive influence on the circumstances out there. And Sandra just bit it off one small bite at a time. It started off with a little bit of action, maybe checking in with the Lord, kind of softening of the heart, and then finding out a little bit more information and just continuing to stay plugged in and taking small steps and small steps and small steps to the point where now we're talking to somebody who is about to go to a political party convention. They're about to have great influence. They're going to add their voice to thousands of other people from across the country and really have a significant amount of influence in a conversation that's going on regarding policy. So, I mean, I'm excited about Sandra, but I'm excited for you because those kinds of people are all around you. You may not know it, but there's a lot of people out there that are perhaps living lives of quiet desperation. Maybe they're frustrated. Maybe they have some concerns, and they would be so welcoming of news, good news, that you can add your voice to ours. Invite people to join us. Invite people to walk this road with us and give them encouraging hope that they can actually have an impact and that there's lots of people out there. You know, the enemy, the person, the enemy who I refer to as the enemy, that person, that there's nothing they want more than to have us believe that we're alone. But the truth is that we're not alone ever. And there's a lot of people just like them out here who have the same motivations, who want to have an impact and who want to have a positive influence on what's happening around them, but they just don't know. So introduce them to all of us. Introduce them to those like-minded people out there that are on the road with them, and they will be encouraged to hear that. So thanks so much, Sandra, again, for all you do. And now I'm going to encourage you even further by letting you know, for those people who want to walk the same road Sandra's on, we have people that walk it with us that know an awful lot about getting ready to impact policy during policy conventions. And I'm going to introduce you to somebody like that right now here on the National Leadership Briefing. Well, hey, Scott, thank you so much for joining us here on the National Leadership Briefing. Happy New Year to you.
Yeah, Happy New Year. Thanks for having me, Doug. Really appreciate it.
Well, it's good to start out the year this way, getting together and discussing the road ahead and deciding how we can best have influence. Scott, let's start. There's a lot of new people on the briefing here today. Can we just start? Why don't you introduce yourself and a little bit about your organization? Because a lot of people don't know about Right Now, and you do a lot of great work out there.
Well, thanks, Doug. I really appreciate that. And it's nice to meet anyone else who's watching this with us today. My name is Scott Hayward. I'm the co-founder and president of Right Now, and we are a political pro-life organization. So we're solely dedicated to nominating and electing pro-life politicians, both federally and provincially, right across Canada. So we're kind of your, if you are pro-life, which I imagine most people watching this are, we're kind of your one-stop shop for anything political dealing with the pro-life issue.
Fantastic. And we'll make sure to get people information about your organization in the post-briefing notes today. Now, Scott, today, and the reason that we're connecting now is because we have a golden opportunity immediately in front of us for us to have a massive amount of impact as people of faith in here in Canada in a political process regarding policy. Now, as soon as we start talking about political processes and we start talking about political parties, some of the folks that are brand new to the briefing maybe haven't made the connection yet as to why it is that somebody would connect into a political process inside of a political party. Can you just touch on maybe some of the advantages or some of the reasons why that's an opportunity not to miss?
Sure, Doug. Yeah, I appreciate that. Political parties generally have policy conventions about once every 2 years or so. And at these policy conventions, you have a number of delegates who are members of that political party, represent one of the 338 ridings across Canada, come to a convention, represent the party members of that riding to propose and vote on policies. And these policies are the official stances that political parties take on a variety of issues. So it will be issues dealing with the environment, issues dealing with the economy, issues dealing with foreign affairs, and so on and so forth. One of the many issues that political parties, of course, deal with are social issues. And for pro-lifers, this is a great opportunity. Within the Conservative Party of Canada, for example, pro-lifers have made great strides in the last number of policy conventions. Doug, I know you yourself have been part of them, and we worked together on them in the past. And there are a number of strong pro-life policies in the Conservative Party of Canada that we've been able to get through over the last number of years. Things like, condemning sex-selective abortion, defunding abortion overseas, born alive legislation, unborn victims of crime, and many others as well. However, there is one, problem that we as pro-lifers have within that policy book for the Conservative Party, and that's they have only one pro-abortion policy, which is policy number 70, saying that a Conservative government will not support legislation to regulate abortion. Of course, many people watching this call will know that Canada is one of only 2 or 3 countries in the world to have absolutely no law whatsoever regulating abortion. Most other countries have some sort of reasonable restrictions. Canada has none. So, this is kind of that last vestige of pro-abortion policy within the Conservative Party of Canada that we can get rid of. So it's a great opportunity. Now, not everything that's in a policy manual for a political party is necessarily introduced and going to be voted on and passed when that political party is in power. But for a lot of the policies, that is the case. Party leaders, party officials, they really do, candidates, and members of caucus, they really do pay attention as to where the base and the significant supporters of a political party are, and the best way to kind of gauge that is what did they vote for or against at the latest political party policy convention. So that's why it's a great opportunity for pro-lifers to get involved coming up here.
Right now, and so that opportunity is coming up in March, when the Conservative Party of Canada is going to be having their very first virtual policy convention. So there's some advantages for us as people of faith in Canada to engage in that process. What are some of the advantages of this next opportunity?
That's a good point, Doug. So it is the first and hopefully last time that they have to do a virtual policy convention. But like I mentioned earlier, they do these about once every 2 years. So the last time this happened was in Halifax in August of 2018. It was supposed to be in Quebec City this year, but obviously because of the COVID-19 restrictions, that's not going to be the case. For a lot of people who are watching this who don't live in Atlantic Canada, you can imagine that if you're voted as a delegate for a riding from, let's say where you are, Doug, in British Columbia, that's quite the expense to go from Vancouver and fly all the way across the country to Halifax, which actually I did last time because I had an event in Vancouver last time. That's a long flight. I did a red eye, got a little bit of sleep. But in addition to the flights, most delegates have to pay for meals, they have to pay for hotels, and they have to pay for a delegate fee that's usually about $750 because the party has to rent the convention space and provide some food and all this other stuff, printing materials and whatnot. None of that's there this time. So with a virtual policy convention, all those costs are gone. I believe it's $199, so it's just under $200 to register as a delegate. So normally when you include all those other fees, you're talking about $2,000, for a normal convention. Now it's $200. For all intents and purposes, the convention is 90% off, which is a huge advantage for pro-lifers. When I spoke to a lot of pro-lifers back in 2018, encouraging to come to Halifax so that we could get rid of that pro-abortion policy, most of the people who didn't attend, it wasn't because they didn't want to attend, it was because of cost. Right. Well, the costs are drastically reduced. They're not, reduced to nil, but pretty darn close. And in the next policy convention for the Conservative Party, or any other political party for that matter, in 2023 or 2024, whatever, that likely will probably be in person, and those costs will be back. So this is a great, almost once in a lifetime opportunity for pro-lifers to flood the convention as delegates at this virtual convention right from their computer screen, like we're doing right now. So that's a really, really big advantage for pro-lifers this time around.
Fantastic. And our crew here at the National Leadership Briefing, we've been tracking along with the deadlines leading up to the delegate registration that's coming up. So we've got our memberships in place so that we're eligible to be delegates, but what is actually happening as far as timelines go for registering as a delegate, and what do our people need to know, Scott, about the important deadlines and the timing of registration that's coming up?
So that's a great question, and things are going to be moving relatively quickly. So one of the deadlines has already passed. That was a week ago on Christmas Day, December 25th. In order to be eligible to be a party member long enough to attend the virtual convention as a delegate, one must have been a member 21 days prior to registering as a delegate. So on January 4th, that's Monday, January 4th, on Monday coming up, that's when the website will open up to register as a delegate. And then you have about 10-ish days. It closes on January 15th to register as a delegate, but you have to have been a member of the party for at least 21 days prior. So if you were a member of the party by Christmas Day, you're good to go. You can register as a delegate, and I encourage you to do so. So January 4th is when that portal opens. January 15th is when it closes. And the way the party's gonna run it is they're going to look at, okay, who has registered as a delegate by January 15th? And let's say in your riding, Doug, or my riding, only 7 people registered as delegates. Well, each riding gets to send up to 10 delegates, and of only 7 people registered and paid the $199 fee by January 15th at the deadline, then they are automatically delegates for convention. They're automatically voting delegates. Right. If more than 10 people sign up and pay the fee by January 15th, they'll have an electronic delegate selection meeting. So members of the party within the riding, they will be sent, let's say, the list of 12 or 13 or 15 people that want to be delegates, and members of the party must vote by a certain date as to who will go as delegates. Right. So it's important that we meet these deadlines as quickly as possible, because things will be moving quickly. I have a feeling that a lot of people out there are kind of zoomed out, including pro-lifers, but we have to make sure that we use that to our advantage and make sure that we register and pay those fees to attend as delegates. Last time, Doug, as you know, you were there. We were 107 votes away out of a room almost out of 3,000 people to voting away that one and only pro-abortion policy in their policy convention. So, that's less than one person per riding, or it's less than one person for every 3 ridings out there. Right. So with this virtual convention, it's a huge opportunity to attend. So make sure, for everyone watching, that you register on the Monday morning on January 4th and pay your fee to register as a delegate.
Now, actually, if I can ask you that question just for clarification. So if you got your membership on December the 25th on the deadline, do you have to wait until January 15th to register as a delegate, or can you register at January 4th and then still be considered because you're in that range? Do you know what I'm saying about the deadline? You have to be for 21 days?
That's a good question. To be honest, I don't quite know the answer.
Okay.
It would be something that we'd be happy to look into and follow up with you in early January.
Let's do that. Yeah.
Yeah, my sense is to register sooner rather than later, just to be safe.
Yeah.
And they'll see like, okay, they can't be a delegate as of January 4th, but they can as of January 15th. January 15th is the cutoff anyway.
Right.
So it's not like someone would bump ahead of you if you registered on January 4th and you couldn't register until January 15th. You have up to January 15th to register and to nominate yourself.
Okay. Then that's great. Now there's going to be people out there, Scott, you and I both know, whenever they hear stuff like this for the first time and they kind of, maybe some of it starts to overwhelm them. I just want to assure everybody that's on the call today that we're just asking you to take this one step of faith here to actually get your name in, get registered. If you've got that party membership in place by December the 25th, you are eligible. Take that flyer and pull that $199 out of your pocket and put it down on the table, because again, these policy conventions, you may say, well, I don't know anything about voting policies, all that stuff, but we've got guys like Scott that are willing to walk along the road with us all the way along. He's just not here on this briefing just this one time. He's going to be coming back, and we are going to be walking this road all the way up to the date of the convention online, and we're going to have the plan laid out. You're going to be totally trained. You're going to know exactly what it is that we're doing and how we're doing it, and you are going to add your voice to ours, and we're going to have a massive impact at this upcoming convention. Does that sound pretty accurate, Scott?
Absolutely, yeah. And we've been working with you, Doug, and a few other pro-life groups out there. We've all been on the calls together. You know, we're working with pro-life EDA presidents out there to make sure we get the policies in place. We've known of the deadlines and the schedule of things for quite some time, so we've been well prepared for it. The one step that people watching this need to do is just to make sure that if they are a member as of December 25th of the Conservative Party of Canada, to sign up as a delegate. That's the only thing, that's the one and only takeaway from this call. As for, you know, which policies are we voting for, and, you know, when do I attend, you know, regional meetings, and who do I vote for as a national council candidate, you know, we'll talk about that as time goes on. Maybe a little bit later on this call we can delve into some of those things. But if you sign up, I guess one important thing in addition to signing up, as opposed to the second thing that's really important, is to either let Doug and his team or myself and the Right Now team know that you have signed up as a delegate.
Right.
For two reasons. Number one, if you are automatically selected as a delegate, because there were less than 10 people who signed up to be a delegate in your riding as of January 15th, we want to make sure that, like Doug said, we walk with you through the process, because after that, then we're going to let you know, okay, these are the policies that we absolutely need to vote for. These are the policies we need to vote against. Here are the candidates that we, you know, strongly suggest you vote for national council. And then the other reason is, let's say there are more than 10 people who sign up to be a delegate for your riding. We want to let our people know, our Right Now supporters know, who reside in your riding, who are members of the party, to vote for you to be a delegate, because they will get that ballot for the electronic delegate selection meeting. So number one is to sign up as a delegate, and number two is to send us a quick email to let us know, so that we can guide you through the rest of the process, whether you're selected automatically as a delegate or whether we need to ensure our level best effort to make sure that you're elected as a delegate as well.
Excellent. And everyone here on the call today, Scott, also knows that we have set up conservativeupdate.com, where you can check the boxes and say, it is my intent to be a delegate at the upcoming Conservative convention. And then you just put your registration, your name in there and your email address, and we'll make sure Scott gets a copy of that as well. Okay. Hey, Scott, thanks. Anything else to add before we sign off for today?
I guess the other one thing I want to mention briefly about policy convention is, in addition to voting for or against policies that affect our pro-life principles and values, is the Conservative Party of Canada, most other political parties operate in this way, their version of a board of directors is called a national council. And national council is also really important, and national councils are elected at each party policy convention for a term of, from that convention to the next convention, usually about 24 months, give or take. And national council is really important to us at Right Now and to you as pro-lifers, because within the Conservative Party of Canada, national council has two important roles that affect us. Number one, national council is the final body of appeal for people who are running to be nomination candidates to be nominated as the actual Conservative Party of Canada candidate in the 338 ridings. So, if someone who doesn't share our values within the party sees that a pro-lifer is running to be a nomination contestant and finds the most spurious reason to encourage whoever they need to encourage in the party for them to be disqualified, we can then work with a pro-life majority on National Council to make sure that that's overturned. And so that's really important. They hold a lot of power in that regard. Number two, National Council is also in charge of setting up what's called the Leadership Election Organizing Committee, also known as LEOC. And the LEOC is in charge of setting up the dates and the times and the amounts and the rules for a leadership race if there were to be a leadership race to be held. So as most people know, earlier, well, not this year, now it's the new year, but back in 2020, there was a leadership race to replace Andrew Scheer. And National Council at that time was responsible for setting up this LEOC that ran that leadership race. So we just want to make sure that we have a pro-life majority on National Council to ensure that who they are appointing to LEOC is going to ensure that a fair race was held. And the best way to ensure that is by showing up to convention and voting for these pro-life candidates for National Council. We've worked with Doug and a number of other pro-lifers. We have a slate of pro-life candidates running for National Council across the country. We do have an opportunity, in addition to getting rid of that pro-abortion policy and voting for pro-life policies to make the Conservative Party of Canada more pro-life in their policy, we also have this very opportunity to elect a pro-life majority to National Council, essentially their board of directors. So that's another reason to attend this virtual policy convention as well.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because you and I have been around in political party processes before, and we've discovered, and we share this with everybody, the way that you affect change and have influence in a political party is from the inside, not from the outside. The people that are on the outside just chirping and squawking, they have zero influence. But the minute you have that membership card or you become a delegate at convention, your voice is added to others and you have great influence. And that's what we're here to do today. And so thank you, Scott, for taking some time to help us along. We're looking forward to hearing from you again. I know you've committed to walk this road with us. In the meantime, I will make sure that we've got post-briefing note materials that go out to everybody. But remember, everybody, get that delegate registration done between January 4th and January 15th, and then we'll keep moving along, educating you and getting you ready for convention. Thanks, Scott. Appreciate your time
Thanks,
today.
Doug. Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year to you too, pal. Take care.
Bye for now.
Okay, we're on the home stretch here now, and just going to play a quick video here promoting conservativeupdate.com, because as soon as you go and register yourself as a delegate, we're going to want to know about it. So go to conservativeupdate.com and make sure that we know of your intent to participate in this process. We'll be back right after this. Well, we just have 1 minute left today, and I want to make sure that I take that opportunity to remind everyone that we have a lot of very, very high quality, high functioning professional people that are walking this road with us. Every kind of source of information that you can imagine, you are going to be able to access through the National Leadership Briefing. And I tell you, these are people that I know well, that I recommend, that I put my name on them. So check your post-briefing notes today, because you're going to find resources for all sorts of different types of issues, all different types of circumstances where you might need some help, or any kind of information at all, you're going to have it at your fingertips. Just check the post-briefing notes today. Now, if you see something that is lacking in any way, if there's a void in the information, get in touch with me right away at president@familyaction.ca. That's president@familyaction.ca, and I will get back to you and make sure I get that information to you as soon as possible. Again, thank you so much for being with us on the National Leadership Briefing today. We look forward to keeping in touch with you on the National Leadership Briefings of the future, but also we've got midweek touch points, midweek every single week between briefings. So let's just touch base really quickly between briefings and make sure we're all doing all we can to stay connected, looking for those opportunities where we can speak with a unified voice to the issues that are of importance to us in the faith communities of Canada. Again, thanks so much. God bless you all. God bless your families, and may God continue to bless this great nation of Canada. Bye for now.